Yes, my friends. So, if you like to play in this kind of style, and if you always admired people that can just play very fluidly and an seemingly effortless stream of ideas, and you just always thought like, oh man, if I just had the chops of this guy, then I want to tell you today that you might be slightly, or you might be completely off with your observations. Because what if I told you that the key to playing in this kind of fashion, and I'm not saying I'm a world champion, but you know, I can play fluid ideas. What if I told you that the key to this kind of playing is more rhythmical imagination than it is mere technique? I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna show you actually what you can do to improve your rhythmical placements, to make friends with the subdivisions, and how you can start playing fluid lines, even if you start at a slower tempo at first, but where you're gonna start to get the concept of being able to keep your ideas going, keep mixing subdivisions, and make your lines sound faster than they actually are. Let's go. But why should you be listening to me? Well, if you know this channel already, then you know that I've been playing for 25 plus years professionally, and I'm the founder of Total Guitar Transformation, where I'm teaching and leading people to using some of the concepts that I discovered in this time that will make you a more intuitive and more fluid improviser. So let's get right into it. What do we need to do to start playing with more rhythmic control and being able to use different subdivisions? Well, first of all, I want to introduce you to the concept of onbeat and offbeat. Have you heard of that before? Let me show you what it sounds and feels like, because this is really like a feel thing. This is not about playing fast, but this is about placing the notes on the right spots. So let's just imagine we have an eighth note grid here, and I'm gonna use my metronome here. I'm using a metronome called Polynome, which is awesome because you can switch off different subdivisions. Yeah. So if we just have a bar of 4/4, kind of in the similar tempo that we had here in the backing track, then you know we can just play all the notes on the beats, right? We can play. Not only does it sound kind of boring, it's also not very groovy, right? But what if we now would play the notes in between the beats? If we say there's like an eighth note grid and we just play the eighth notes in between. See what that sounds like. 2, 3, 4. Sounds pretty cool already, right? I mean, to me, this sounds way more exciting. Eh? And now we were only using an eighth note grid. But what are you talking about, Ulrich, when you say eighth note grid? Or what other grids are there? We probably need to go a step back, and I need to talk with you about the rhythmical pyramid. These are just the most common subdivisions that we have in music. And we need to first know what they look like on notation, because rhythm is being notated, and then also how we play them, what they sound like. So I don't want to go all the way deep into the foundations, because this is stuff that I teach my students in TGT Academy. So if you're interested in that, just click on the link below here and check out what TGT Academy might have to offer for you. But I'm gonna just jump right in with quarter notes and then quarter triplets. I'm just gonna demonstrate. If we just have one note, yeah? We have our quarter notes here. Then we have 3 notes per half note, so sounds like this. Then we got 8 notes. And then we got 8th note triplets. Now we got 3 notes per beat, yeah? We got 16s. Now we got our 4 notes per beat, right? And then we got the 16th note triplets. 2, 3, 4. So those are the most common subdivisions that we have. And if you never spend time or energy on thinking about the different note values, then all I can say is no wonder that your solos all sound the same. Because these are all like rhythmical gears that you can switch into, and this is gonna make everything just way more exciting. So let's see what happens if I start switching around subdivisions, even just going from 8th notes to 16th notes. Check it out. Oh yeah. So, you know, I'm just improvising. This is all unedited stuff. So, yeah, I think I had a note here that I didn't intend to play. That's totally fine. That happens. So, could you hear how it's going from the dun 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 8th notes to the dun 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 ba dun dun into the 16th note grid? And that didn't mean that I was just playing 16th notes, but I was starting to use offbeats in the 16th note grid, also called syncopations. Yeah? So let's just look at some very typical syncopation rhythms that you can immediately put into your solo that's gonna make you sound more fluid and sophisticated. Yeah? Probably the most common one is that one that I played a few times here. Is that one. Or we can just start with a short version of that. So if you go in an alternate picking fashion, you can actually hammer on that second note. But the important part is that that third accent needs to be an upstroke. Because that's going to make it groovy, yeah? You see how that makes it groovy? This is key, that, you know, you have this kind of a windshield wiper movement in the right hand that keeps that 16th note subdivision grid running in the background, yeah? Invisibly. Oh. Yes! Now I need to mention here that I'm also using a bunch of muting on the right hand, as you might have noticed. And this helps me to get more articulation out of my line. Yeah? If you imagine, if I just play. sounds a little bit stale and boring still, right? But if I use my palm and just kind of, and I have those little ghost notes, so I'm basically playing accents. You know, I'm accenting certain notes and then making other ones quieter. If I do it like that, then suddenly the line starts coming to life. And that's exactly what we want. So how do you practice this all together? Yeah, if you want to practice like just all these aspects together, and let's assume you're like an intermediate player, you already know your scales, you know your way around the fretboard, but this kind of funky playing, you know, it intimidates you a little bit. Is that you? Well, if that's you, then I want to show you the perfect little exercise here. We're just gonna keep that same backing track. You can pretty much do that over any backing track. I would just recommend that the backing track should have a great groove feel, maybe a little bit of swing, and the track shouldn't have too many instruments on it. Yeah, you should have some space there. Yeah. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna start now playing fluid 8th note lines, and we're gonna try to make it musical, and we're gonna first just pay attention to our note lengths, because the note lengths, they're another factor that are gonna influence how musical and how alive our lines are gonna sound. Check it out. And then once you start feeling comfortable, try to mix in some of those little syncopations. Little bursts. Play this as a repeating lick. This is technically not difficult, yeah? This is all about placement. Short notes here. How about legato stuff? Just playing little legato phrases like that. Play in the groove, yeah? How about some triplets? 8th note triplets. You know, those little repeating licks, actually, that's another secret weapon that I haven't even thought about. So these little things, they create rhythmical interest, and they're kind of like resting spots. Whenever you need to kind of process a little, or maybe you run out of ideas, you just want to relax, you find little motifs that you can repeat easily. Yeah? It might be something like this. Or it might be something like this. Notice I'm using hybrid picking here, so this is a little bit more advanced. But this is very easy to remember, and it doesn't take a ton of practice to get smooth with this, yeah? And you can move it around in the pentatonic. But you know, this is probably the easiest one. You might already know this one. Just be careful not to pick too hard here, because all this is kind of legato sounding. So, you know, if you pick soft enough, then it starts to flow, yeah? See how that works? So now we can put little 16th flurries in there, yeah? Like this, yeah? So. You see how it works? Short notes, don't forget. Repeating lick. I was sneaking in a 16th triplet here, yeah? Yeah, my friend. So I'm not saying that this is gonna happen overnight, but I want to show you a walkable path of how you can get there, and how you need to first get a hold of those subdivisions and get control of those subdivisions. You first need to hear them. So don't even worry about spending hours working on the alternate picking. If you cannot hear those subdivisions first and cannot like sing lines like that, you know, like you don't need to have good pictures, or, you know, it's just about the rhythm. If you can't vocalize the rhythm like that, then it doesn't matter how much technique you have, you're just not gonna be able to imagine those rhythms. That's what it comes down to, really, yeah? So that's what I'm saying, is to ease your way into using subdivisions. Start working on the rhythmical pyramid. That's probably a technical foundation that you're gonna need. We cover all this in our TGT Academy program. So if you'd like to find out how TGT Academy might be able to help you to build indestructible foundations for your guitar improvisation, then click on that link below here. Put a little info together for you. And yeah, that's gonna be a game changer for you, you know, to work on those foundations and be able to start dancing with your rhythms, because that's what it's really all about, isn't it? In that sense, thanks for being here on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And while you're still here, watch this video here next.